Hello, and welcome to Every Persona Explained, where we take a look at the origin and representation of every persona. And today we're taking a look at Jack Frost. So, Jack Frost doesn't exist. I know he's a folklore character, of course he's not real. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any stories about him. Folklore characters tend to have stories associated with them, either explaining something about the world or giving a life lesson. But there's none of that. Most of the origins I found say Jack Frost is a winter fairy who changes the color of leaves in autumn and leaves frost on windows during winter. The earliest reference I can find to Jack Frost is in a book titled Round About Our Coal Fire, published in London in the 1730s. In this book, it states, "This time of year being cold and frosty generally speaking, or when Jack Frost commonly takes us by the nose, the diversions are within doors, either in exercise or by the fireside." This tells us two things. Firstly, the author doesn't understand how capitalization works. Secondly, the fact that there's no explanation around who Jack Frost is means that he probably didn't need an explanation. The reader would have been expected to know who the writer was talking about. To me, this means that Jack Frost was common knowledge. Annoyingly, it means the best I can do as far as the story is that Jack is a chilly boy that paints leaves and makes it harder to drive in the morning. However, that's not the end of it. I saw a number of times that Jack Frost is supposedly an offshoot of the Scandinavian deity Jokul Frosty. I'm definitely pronouncing that wrong. I'll get into this more when I get around to doing Thor or Odin or something else properly Scandinavian, but we only have two sources for pre-Christian Scandinavian tradition, these being the Prose Edda and the Poetic Edda, and both of them were written well after the region was Christianized, and at least one of them has a very clear agenda, so reliability is questionable with them. But with no other options, I went to them. And I found Jokul Frosty. Well, kind of. In the Prose Edda, I found mention of two individuals, one named Jokul and the other named Frosty. They're stated as two of the sons of Kare, meaning wind. And Jokul's name means iceberg, and Frosty's name means, no points for guessing, frost. So if we assume that this source is correct, a thing I'm not necessarily inclined to do, we could come up with a theory saying that Jokul and Frosty came over to what is now the UK during the Viking invasions, somehow blended together into one individual, maybe with the help of some local traditions, and eventually gave us Jack Frost. However, all the evidence for this theory rests on the fact that the names look similar and everyone involved is very cold, so not exactly solid academic proof. And since we're making one unsubstantiated claim about his origin, why not a second one? So as we established, our first written source name drops Jack without saying who or what he is. Now, like I said, this could be because Jack Frost was common knowledge. If today you made something, a novel or a game or a movie, and you referenced, say, Superman or Mickey Mouse, you wouldn't need to explain who those characters are, because they're common knowledge, and explaining them would be a waste of time. I think that may be what's happening here. But I don't think Jack was a character at this point, but a concept. In England, the name Jack is a generic name you can slap on any guy who needs a name. For example, Jack-o'-lantern, Jack and the Beanstalk, Jack of all trades, Jack the Ripper. It's basically just generic male name number one. So Jack Frost may not have been a character, but a name for wintertime, the time when Jack Frost comes into town. This could explain why there's no real folk tales about him. And artists and writers could then use him in whatever way they wanted, since his only characteristic is cold, leading to today where he's well known, but doesn't really have any character. But this is all just conjecture from me probably overanalyzing things. If you're an expert in British folklore and pre-Christian Scandinavian tradition, let me know what you think. We're not done quite yet. Jack Frost has a couple of spin-offs in these games. Black Frost and King Frost. Since these are just offshoots of Jack, we're gonna talk about them here. According to the SMT Wiki, Black Frost is just an evil Jack Frost. And apparently when written in Japanese kanji, his name just means evil, so yeah, very on the nose. I think, though, that I could take this a little deeper. If you're from a part of the world where black ice doesn't exist, then firstly, I'm jealous. Secondly, you're about to learn why I refuse to drive in the snow. Black ice is a thin layer of near-invisible ice that forms on roads. Due to its transparency and its tendency to be very slick, because it's ice, it's often the cause for car accidents, which seems like something Black Frost would do. King Frost doesn't seem to have much of a deeper meaning. He's the king of Jack Frosts. The SMT Wiki says that he may be inspired by the short story The Frost Fairies, released in 1873 by Margaret T. Canby, that gives an explanation onto why leaves change colors. Alternatively, it may be a pun about playing cards. I wouldn't be surprised if this was just someone at Atlas being creative. And that's Jack and the Frosties.
Boo!
Shut up. So, how are they represented in game? It's fine, I guess. I wasn't able to find anything close to a physical description, so I don't have anything to compare it to. That being said, he's a cute little snowman in jester clothes, so he gets my approval. Black Frost is just him but edgy. King Frost has a little bit more going on, looking like a whole Fraser with the adorable but no thoughts in his head face, a royal crown, and a staff, which I normally associate with religious positions and not secular ones, but I'm not going to try to take it from him. Jack Frost is categorized in the Lover's Arcana in the P2s and Magician in everything after that. Neither one really fits anything. The closest I'd say is Reverse Magician, which can mean trickery and deception, which match fairly well with the common view of him being some kind of fairy. Black Frost is the Full Arcana, which I think fits pretty well with him just being Jack but evil. Upright can mean mania and frenzy, both pretty evil things, and reversed it can mean vanity, which is often at the core of many evil characters. King Frost is in the Emperor Arcana because, of course, he's a king, and represents authority and control. He rules over, quote, an infinite number of Jack Frosts, so that tracks. Unsurprisingly, most of Jack's movesets are based around ice moves, both damaging and supporting freeze. Black Frost moves are similar, but in P3, 4, and Q1, he also gets fire moves, I guess because he's evil and fire is the evil element or something. But in 3 and 4 he gets dark moves, so that also could have sufficed. Maybe it's supposed to be a surprise that he's using fire moves, I don't know. King, like Jack, is mostly ice moves, but generally stronger ones. Also in the P2s, King wasn't a persona, but a fusion spell that you could cast, and it looked like this. They all share the same trait of frigid bloodline. They're snowmen, that tracks. They don't share itemization, though. Jack gives either Frost Hood or Frost Ace Hood, armor for Morgana that boosts SP. Black gives either the Naraka Whip or the Die Naraka Whip. Both weapons were on with freeze chance. Finally, King gives either King Frost Cape or King Frost Cape EX, equipment for any non-cat party member that reduces incoming ice damage. Jack and King's items work really well because they're clothing that help you keep warm in the cold. Black Frost item, on the other hand, is a bit weird. I mean, it gives ice chance, but they're whips. How does that make sense? Overall, this is pretty good representation. In spite of the fact that they had very little to go off of, they did a great job. I had intended on doing Jack Frost much sooner than this, but me finding basically nothing about him made me just wait. I could basically only make this video because I made some stuff up from what little I could find. So feel free to take, everything in this video with a grain of salt. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Let me know who you want to see next in the comments down below. And I'll see you next time on Every Persona Explained.